Services Board Trustee Meeting, March 17, 2026. And if we could begin, please, with roll call.
Ms. Bell,
Present.
Mr. Albright,
Here.
Mr. Arnold,
I'm here.
Ms. Banks, Mr. Brown, Ms. Carter, Ms. Crockett, Dr. Elhai, Ms. Friedman, Reverend Gordon, Ms. Harding,
Here.
Ms. Howe,
Here.
Mr. Lambert,
Here.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Here.
Mr. Ortley,
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Mr. Salas, and Major White.
Here. And Mr. Brown.
And Mr. Brown's here.
We'd like to recognize our visitors. If we could begin, as usual, with Mr. Arnold.
Tina Mason, board staff. Stefan Hill with board staff.
Paul Lewis, Recovery Council, St. Paul Community Center Board, and MPI Board.
Julie Ruck, board staff. Shannon Hedge, board staff. Dee Kirkmeyer, board staff.
Annie Minton, CJCC.
Welcome, everyone. We'll move then to determination of items to be removed from the consent agenda. Is anyone interested in having item 5 on the agenda, the trustee meeting minutes from February 17, 2026, removed from the consent agenda? We'll move on then to items under number 6 from the P&O committee report. The first item A, Treasurer's Report, January fiscal year 2026 financial statements. B, Ohio DBH landlord incentive funds. C, health officer designations for March 2026. D, Ohio DBH Northwest Ohio Adult Mobile Crisis Pilot Grant. Okay. If we could have, the chair will entertain a second to approve,
So moved.
second. And if we could have, is there any discussion before we call for the roll call? Hearing none, roll call please.
Major White,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Ortley,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Yes.
Mr. Lambert,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Albright.
Yes.
The motion carries. We have a new item that's added to the agenda, and that's the Toledo-Lucas County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, ZEF Center, and Mental Health Recovery Services Grant Collaboration, and Scott's going to present that to us.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be here. It looks like it's going to be the Scott show between this presentation and the director's report. So I'm going to try not to be too windy today, but we do have quite a bit to cover, starting with the request for a letter of support that includes a identification of match funding. And just as a reminder, I can actually, by policy, write a letter of support. What I can't do is write a letter of support that identifies match. That is left to you. So what we have going on here is a matter of timing. Typically, I'd like to take these through a board committee and then have that vetted in discussion, and then bring it to the board meeting for a final vote. However, sometimes federal grant applications don't align with our board process, and this is one of those occasions where the proposal seems to fit very well with some of the initiatives that we are desired to do here in Lucas County, but the proposal is actually due on, I believe it's April 5th. And so, 6th, thank you, Annie. So obviously, the timing of it would not allow us to take this to the April Planning and Oversight Committee meeting. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a collaboration between the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, ZEF, and the Mental Health Board. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council will be the lead applicant for the Bureau of Justice Assistance Federal Fiscal Year 25 Public Safety and Mental Health Initiative request for proposal. So this RFP is a project designed to support coordination of intervention efforts, primarily with those individuals who have behavioral health disorders in the criminal justice system. With the specific intent of enhancing and expanding co-responder models, crisis stabilization units, use of assisted outpatient therapies and outpatient commitments, and accountability models. So the idea is that building off our investment in ZEF Center, we could use those funds that we already allocate to provide match funds for this grant over the 3-year period, if awarded, that will provide additional support in the crisis stabilization crisis environment. The specifics of it would be to create a more law enforcement friendly drop-off center. Right now, we do a decent job of responding to law enforcement. You could always do better. You can have specific lines, you could have specific liaisons, you could have specific services that cater to law enforcement. Those are some of the things that are likely to be embedded in this application. And by the way, I'm being somewhat vague in my description because, as you know, there is still 3 weeks out, and many of this information is still being developed. So we're giving you the latest information that we have in broad strokes to provide you the best information we can at the time. The other thing is that we want to improve treatment access for individuals that are engaged with the co-responder model. As you recall, in our March 2024 levy campaign, one of our priorities was to establish a co-responder model. Shortly thereafter, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council received a grant to initiate a co-responder model, and they've been in the planning stages and we're moving closer to implementation. This grant would provide an additional support for the co-responder model via a case manager, so that when law enforcement officers, co-responder teams engage individuals on the street, there'll be somebody that can follow up with that person and help support them get to their appointments, provide some additional case management work, and support to that individual, with the intent of engaging in treatment, reducing the connection and contact with law enforcement or being incarcerated. So there's also a portion of these funds that will help support a case manager that will work with people coming out of justice environments, local jail, and maybe CCNO, to help support housing placements. And as you know, and as we talked about, and in this packet, there is considerable concern about individuals with behavioral health disorders and criminal justice backgrounds being able to get housed. And by the way, since our last discussion, as a side note, we've had a couple additional conversations with people who may be willing to house those individuals using some of the funds that we identified early on. So that conversation was very helpful to get the word out. The other thing is, there is a communications gap between general referrals from criminal justice and the individuals that are seeking treatment services, so that similar to what the task model does on a smaller or on a larger scale. There's a need for some of these highly intensive, familiar faces, or to have some of these familiar faces have a highly intensive case manager by their side and communicate back and forth to the court system to help support not only placement and services, but also communication with the court to apply an additional level of accountability that might help support progress in the treatment plan. And so the letter of support would not only identify support for the project, for the grant application, but if awarded, allocate money that we will likely already be allocating, no additional monies, to ZEP Center, a portion of that to be used as match for this grant. The maximum allowable budget is $166,667. That is for a 36-month period. The federal contribution would be $1 million each year for a total of $3 million. Matches based on $250,000 on years 1 and 2, and $666,667 on years 3, for a grand total of $1,166,667. And like I said before, it's not new money, it's already being allocated, it's board local levy funds. And just as reference, we give ZEF over $5.3 million each year towards crisis services. So there's ample funds to leverage. We're comfortable making this recommendation for a number of reasons. First, it hits a target population and service that has been a high priority for us in the past, and pending discussions, future discussions will very likely be a high priority for us in the future. It also furthers our commitment to the co-responder model. It identifies a need that has come up in our forums and focus groups from law enforcement about having a more law enforcement friendly drop-off process, and it leverages local resources. So we think it's a great opportunity, and we obviously believe that if this grant can be successfully implemented, that it will have positive impacts on the individuals that that we care about, which is why we would want to do this to begin with, right? So there is a motion on the bottom of, or on the middle, upper, top, bottom, middle, upper. It's somewhere on page 19, let's say that, for your consideration. It's a rather lengthy motion, but I think it encompasses everything we needed to say.
I move.
Second.
Is there discussion?
What does it mean for a drop-off center to be more law enforcement friendly? Are we talking like a sally port?
So there
Or-
could be a sally port, it could be a caged sally port area so that they can't run away. It could be a drop and go. So, right now, we wanna make sure that law enforcement officers are able to bring somebody there and not with a lot of hoopla, not a lot of paperwork, not a lot of, be able to drop and go. We have some pretty good time, I believe, Elijah, because we track that now. But it can always be better, and it can also include conversations about no reject, meaning whoever you bring, we're gonna take. And, making it as easy as possible for law enforcement to use the drop-off center will reduce the number of people who go to the jail. Because once you're in the car, you're going somewhere.
Sure.
And if it's too hard to go into the drop-off, or it's too timely or too consuming, it's not that hard going into the jail. So that's the thought process behind it.
Thank you. Scott?
Yes, sir.
When we talk about this, is there gonna be restricted hours, or is it gonna be, because law enforcement works 24/7?
So we do have 24/7 access now for law enforcement, so I
Okay.
would think that that would be enhanced.
Okay, perfect.
How can we be assured that this won't cause a diversion of funds that ZEF will need for other crisis services?
So the way this grant will be tailored is they'll build their other service, they're gonna have to build a portion of their other services within this budget in order to show it as matched. So it's gonna have to be a singular program. Beyond that, we still have routine fiscal reports that we get, itemizing the expenses for crisis services by 3 different categories. I would guess those categories, and I'd surely be wrong, but they're broken down in urgent care, emergency services, then you have your crisis CSUs, and then, I'm forgetting the next thing, but you guys can fill it in for me if you want. You're sitting there, you know what it is?
They report based on 2 cost centers.
2 cost centers
Yep.
now, okay. Yeah, so, also we get programmatic reports, and we get extensive data due to our value-based purchasing. So we'll be able to monitor that quite well. Plus, we have our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Criminal Justice Liaison that will have continuous monitoring as the lead entity.
Yeah, so they'll be the sub-grant, so if they were to change any program activities, it would have to be approved by the CJCC.
Kelvin, you had
Yes, define a portion. I mean, when you say, is it fixed or is it?
250, 250, 666, 667.
ZEF. The amount that a portion be to be paid by ZEF or deducted from ZEF, is there a fixed amount or?
No, so what, well, the fixed amount is 250, 250,
Understand.
66667. That money still goes to ZEF, and ZEF offers that up as cash match to the project. So it is a fixed amount.
Is there any other question or discussion? Okay, hearing none. We do have a motion and a second. Then we can move on to a roll call, please.
Mr. Albright,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Ms. Howe, Mr. Lambert,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke,
Yes.
Mr. Ortley,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Major White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll then move to the director's report.
Okay, I got some stuff for you.
Good stuff.
I think it's good and interesting.
Okay.
You can determine,
May you
you
live in
can make the
interesting
determination
times.
on the rest of that. Let's start with our newly minted annual report. There are some hard copies over there for you guys to take. It's a very well done report, and kudos to Mike and Faith and whoever else had their hand in this document. It's very well presented, and I just wanted to point that out. Also, want to remind you that on May 1st, our annual recognition ceremony will occur, once again at the Malawi Event Center at the zoo. You should have received an email with registration information, but if you haven't, feel free to scan the QR code and register. The event starts at 9:30? 9:30? And we hope to see you all there.
Do you remember about when we would have received it? Was it a while ago or recently?
It would have been recent. We'll send it out again, but sometimes because when you send them in those big things, they hit your spam.
Okay.
So, you can have that one.
All right, thank you.
And there's some flyers up there as well for the event as well. So we really want to encourage everybody to register because the seats fill up fast. We have capacity for 300, and that's stuffing them in there. So it's a great event if you've not been there, and we hope that you will attend. So I want to remind you that we do have executive and nominating committee meetings scheduled for April 14th and May 12th. Current members of that committee include Ms. Bell, Ms. Rodriguez, Major White, Ms. Howe, Ms. Crockett, Mr. Brown, and we need to appoint Senna, which you can do now, and anybody else who wants to serve as executive and on the executive and nominating committee. Anyone? No?
So done.
Okay.
Senna is hereby appointed.
So, and just as a reminder, if at some point you want to serve on the committee, just ask and we can have the chair appoint you. And we always send all the meeting notices out to everybody so that you're aware that the meeting is happening. You are always welcome to attend any meeting. However, if you're not officially appointed on the executive committee and you don't want to be on the executive committee, but you are in attendance, we won't be able to count your vote. So, okay, so we got that out of the way. So there are a lot of things in the executive committee that we'll need to talk over the next couple months. We will be approving new charters for both the committees. We have a new opioid settlement proposal that will come in April, that Zolan Krantz will be here to present. We be working on my evaluation, I believe, right, Calvin? We have a discussion of our fiscal year 27 administrative budget that we'll be presenting. We will be considering a few policies, a hybrid work or remote work policy, artificial intelligence policy. And then we'll probably have a few changes to some other HR policies, just minor things to clean up. We also have 8 members, 8 of the 18 members whose terms end on June 30th. The Ms. Crockett, Ms. Friedman, Ms. Rodriguez, and Major White are eligible for renewal, and so we'll need to work with you to get those applications done. Should you so choose to continue to serve. And Ms. Harding, Mr. Arnold, Ms. Banks, and Reverend Gordon, they're term limited. So we'll need to discuss recruitment of replacements, skill sets, and any other ideas. Obviously, we'll communicate to the commissioner's office, because I believe it's about I think it's half and half state and county commissioner appointees. So there'll be some work to do. Just also, somewhere along the line, we got an imbalance in the terms. Normally, you wouldn't have 8 people term on the same day. It should be 5-4, 5-4. So we're going to try and move back that way. And I'll work with the state and the county to stagger some of the new people terms and some of the returning terms so that we can go probably to several other, get at least 3 others in the 2027 renewal timeframe. So that we get back to 5-4, 5-4. So, so that's upcoming. The remainder of the meetings for the month, we do have planning and oversight on April 7th. As I mentioned, we have the executive and nominating on the 14th. We have our board meeting on April 21st. And I'm gonna roll into prioritization of populations and services, because we've engaged Dr. Gillette from Bioethics of Virginia to support the identification of priority populations and services. As you recall, this was a conversation that you wanted to have in strategic planning, and we pushed it into a separate process. We hope to have, and I know this is a stretch, so I'm slow walking it in. We believe we need to have a day-long process that starts with a training as to what we're attempting to do with Dr. Gillette, and ends with a conversation about prioritization of services and populations. That will, it won't be the final conversation, but it will give us enough during that day to move the process forward and come back with some additional information. And either decide at that point, do we do another session of somewhat, or can we do virtually or something like that? So I'm gonna impose upon you an April 28th date.
What day of the week is
That is a Tuesday. And because it is a Tuesday, and because it is a meeting, anytime you bring the board together to do the majority of the board together to do the board business, it is a public meeting. So we'll have to create it as a special meeting, much like we did with our strategic planning process. Thank you. So, that was the big news, trying to get you guys here for a full day, and I know it's a stretch. And we'll take whatever we can get as long as we maintain a quorum. And it's an important conversation because it does lead into many of the other conversations that we've had about funding. And we will send you more out. It'll probably be a 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock start, probably 9 o'clock, so we don't waste the whole day. Yes, sir.
Just for your consideration, I think it's a really important conversation, but it could be hard for some people to be here all day. So I wonder if we could consider breaking it into two, where we have the afternoon for training and then the next morning have the conversation.
I think that's a reasonable.
That way people would have a half a day to work.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable accommodation. We can check with Dr. Gillette.
Yeah, see what his schedule.
The other thing we're doing is, we know that the Board of DD is very interested in a similar conversation, and they've engaged Dr. Gillette in a conversation. I don't know where that's going, but we've committed to economies of scale. So if Dr. Gillette comes into Toledo for us, how can we work with DD to kind of maximize his time so that we both experience savings with his travel time? And so we're doing that. We may have a joint training or a joint community meeting in the future. I don't want to get too far out ahead of myself or ahead of DD, because I don't know what the conversations they've had in public on this. So that's the plan. We'll work and we'll get a better understanding of what that day might look like, and we will get that out to you as soon as possible. It will be a public meeting. We'll likely have it here. So the public will be invited. We will record it. And as a little added bonus, annually, this board is supposed to do a training approved by the Ohio Department of Behavioral Health. We will seek approval for that training for this event, so that we can consider our, knock out that training that we needed to do. So we're doing our best to maximize your time, but also not, infringe too deeply on that. So thank you for that. The question become, would you prefer a Monday and Tuesday or a Tuesday and Wednesday?
I personally, it doesn't matter to me, that week's open.
Yeah, I would prefer one day.
Okay. Well, let's see what he can do, and then we'll go from there.
Do you know that the 28th, the DD's annual meeting is that morning too? I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that, no.
It is.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll put it out there, we'll see. Obviously, we need a quorum, so, and it can't be a partial quorum once we, you know. So breaking it apart, maybe breaking apart in two separate things makes some sense. But we'll just put it out there and we'll see. We can do some surveying to see what we can get, okay?
Is it critical that you have the same individuals attending both sessions as opposed to a mix, someone coming to discuss who wasn't part of the training,
Well, I think,
and vice versa?
I think we want everybody to be there the whole time,
Yeah.
recognizing that that's not always possible.
Right.
Training is definitely something you will need to set as a baseline for what we're trying to accomplish. Now, that doesn't mean we can't figure out how to get you access to a similar type training, but, you know, the video of us training, I don't know if that'll be available or, you know, posted yet or any of that stuff. So we can, I think it'd be important that everybody go through it because, you know, this process is transformative. It's not just about identifying populations and services. It's about doing that, plus then implementing that structurally within the way we do business. And that's what I mean by transformative. Because it doesn't do us any good to identify priority services and populations and then not use that information as we consider our allocations. Also, it'll set us up for any issues we might have with any funding concerns moving into the future. And we all know that there are plenty of those lurking in the shadows for us. So we'll get that information out as soon as we can get it out. Speaking about funding, we do know that at least 4 agencies have appealed our 120-day notice. UMADOP, NPI, Unison, and Sylvania Prevention Alliance. Staff meetings are occurring. We've actually met with 1 or maybe 2 by now. And I know 1 other is scheduled at the end of this week, and I think 1 next week. Or is that next week? And then 1's pending still. Anyway, we're working on those. We can't say much more about that. We think we're going to have a mutual solution on the one that we met earlier. I'm not sure where we're at today on the meeting we held today. But things are going well with that. And that's important because in that process, there is a board-to-board meeting opportunity if we disagree after our board staff face-to-face. That could impact your time at the April meetings. So that's the update on the appeals. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, how many of you heard about this constitutional amendment to eliminate property taxes?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Let me tell you a little more. So recently, everybody's heard it. Everybody's heard it. If you're serving in public capacity, anywhere, shape, or form, you've heard about this. But there has been, in early February, the Ohio Office of Management and Budget and Management, actually sent Governor DeWine a memo on the impact of repealing property taxes would have in Ohio. Elimination or loss of $24 billion across the state, with no good plan for how to replace those funds. The term catastrophic impact on essential local services appears in the memo from OBM. Public education, obviously, if you're paying close attention, is significantly impacted because 61% of that 24 billion goes to school systems now. Police, fire, EMS, libraries, parks, health and human services, senior supports, all impacted. So if they were to, the conversation turns to, okay, if that goes away, what's the replacement? And just to kind of give you an idea of what people are talking about, if we were to replace the loss of that 24 billion with income tax. The current state income tax is 2.75% for 2026. Income tax rates across Ohio would need to quadruple or more, reaching 11 to 15% statewide to replace local property tax levies. If replacement income taxes were levied locally, then the income tax rate would need to reach 27% in some counties. 27% income tax. So that doesn't sound very feasible, right? Well, then let's look at the sales tax. Sales tax is a moderate 5.75% right now. It generates about $14 billion currently. We're in the middle nationally as far as what our sales tax is. The estimates to replace the local property tax would require a state sales tax approaching 15 to 18%. Significantly higher than any other state. So there seems to be this cavalier attitude of those entities that are pushing this as, well, that's not really our issue to worry about. That's not our issue that we need to find a replacement. That's not our job. But the reality is that it would be very catastrophic to all the local boards, townships, police and fire, EMS. And if you're wondering, okay, what is the percentage of our 3 1-mil property taxes for our budget? It's 72%. So it's a big deal. Now, we know they gotta have 600,000 signatures. We know that it has to be from 44 different counties. There's a certain percentage in order to get on the ballot. Nobody really knows how many signatures they actually have. There's been some reports of upwards of 400,000. I don't know how reliable those are. But we do know that in order to be on the ballot in November, which is the target, we would know something somewhere around July 22nd, because it got to be approved 105 days before the primary election to be on the ballot. There are groups forming at the state level and locally. We are a part of that conversation. And there are conversations at the state regarding alternative funding strategies, something called a land tax, not a property tax. Land tax just taxes the land, it doesn't tax the buildings that are on the land. I don't know what that looks like and how that helps too much.
Ask your farmers.
Yeah. We also know that it is considered probably a property tax, so that if they're both on the ballot at the same time, if the legislature promotes a constitutional amendment, and the property tax repeal is on at the same time, there is some legal discussion on who wins. Because land tax is clearly a property tax, so is it consumed and default, or is it highest vote wins? There's a thought that the highest vote getter wins. One thing's for sure is that there will be some legal challenges to all that. My guess is if that ever did occur, they would stay collection of the property taxes, which would cause significant harm to everyone. We have estimate, we have approximately 6 months of undesignated reserve before, like if property taxes ended tomorrow, we probably have about 6 to 7, 8 months of doing things as status quo before we would run out of money. Obviously, we want to do that. We would make immediate changes, which is why it's so important we have these priority services and populations. So, we're a part of this conglomerate. There will be a united effort to educate the community on how these property tax dollars are used in our community and elsewhere. And we are going to start some of that work now via various social media posts and other work products. So we're asking not just you, but your families, anybody you know, to join us on our Facebook account, because that will be a primary, we'll use social media to engage our supporters, and we will likely end up having to boost all those posts so that you can get them and then get them out to all your folks, because they're still collecting signatures, right? And the best way to avoid this is to not have them collect enough signatures so that they never get on the ballot. The problem with that theory is that those signatures don't sunset, they're evergreen. So if they don't make it this year, they can keep collecting, and as soon as they hit their 600, they can, and as soon as they hit their 600 valid signatures, they could be on the ballot because the language is already approved. So there's going to be a lot more conversation around this as things heat up. But we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can do now to educate the community about how we use and how our provider network uses the property tax dollars that we get. And hopefully it will never come to a vote, but even if it doesn't, well, that's still good work being done because our community knows how we're using those dollars. So it's a win-win for us. So I'm going to stop there for any comment.
Have any other states had referenda like this? And if they have, and they voted them into effect, what has happened?
I know just a little bit. There's been a few states that have modest changes to property taxes, but as far as I'm aware, there's not been a single state that has outlawed it altogether. No property tax. And Ohio, I believe, would be the first if it passed.
Didn't
And
Michigan
if it passed-
significantly reduce property taxes several years ago? I think Michigan made a big change in their property tax, but I don't know what they replaced it with.
Yeah.
When would this take effect, say for instance, if it was approved?
My guess is January of '27 if it was on the November of '26 ballot.
I mean, pending any challenges, right?
Pending any challenges. But like I said, I'd be willing to bet they would stay collection of property taxes.
Throughout the challenge process.
Well, yeah. Because once you collect it, how do you return it? Once you
Well, what
collect
do
it
you-
and
what
we
do you
get it
do
and I
with-
spend it, how do I return it?
What do you do with unpaid property taxes that predate the decision?
That's a really good question too. There has been an emphasis to try and collect that here locally as well.
I bet.
Yeah. So, everybody's concerned about it, everybody's coming together, we're all in the same boat. But, you know, we don't wanna be, I don't wanna ring the alarm bell, but I also wanna be prepared and, you know, even keeled in the way we handle this, because, you know, services will survive. What they look like in the future if this goes away.
Do we have the ability to stock some more reserves? I mean, we can see this coming down the pike, we don't know what direction it's gonna go, we're sitting on 6 months. Is there a way for us to up that number?
Yeah, there is, and we've made some changes to our contract that would allow us to do more of that in the future. But I think first of all, we will, and we are, and we're gonna be proposing reducing some board administrative, but we're not gonna cut our way out of $24 million.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so,
I
right.
absolutely agree. We have 9 months before a decision might take effect, 8.5, right? Is there a way that we can get 7, 8, 9 months of reserves? I don't know what your mechanism is to do that if one exists, right?
Well, it's a combination of administrative reductions plus reductions to services. And, you know, we made $1 million cut out of our budget last year, and that has multiplied us, you know, and put us in a position. My goal is to get to a balanced budget, because we're still deficit spending, at least projected deficit spending. We're trending above that, so we're probably not gonna deficit spend. Jenny's working on a new forecast right now. So that will help as well, and maybe that is the difference between 6 months and 7 or 8 months. But we will be presenting some reductions in administrative budget as well.
Is there any conversation about the mysterious rainy day funds?
I don't know whose rainy day fund that is, unless you're talking about the state's $8 billion. Not that I'm aware of.
I think it's raining.
I think there's people that would suggest it's been raining. You know, I think Governor DeWine is, and I know Governor DeWine has made the statement that he thinks this constitutional amendment is a bad idea and would be devastating. And I think that this memo is a reflection of his concerns. Because my guess is this would not have happened without some request of something. So, yeah, there's a hell of a lot more to come on that. And by the way, that's the first time I think I've cussed at a board meeting. So, which is ultimately surprising as well. But it is concerning, and we're keeping an eye on it, and we're not gonna say we're on top of it, because I don't think anybody is, but we're not waiting for a full strategy. We're gonna start doing education on our community as best we can. Okay? A couple other things. I will be on vacation next week. And in my absence, you can contact Steve Spinelli. He will be in charge while I am gone. And happy St. Patrick's Day. That's my report.
Scott? I just RSVP to this May 1st event that you said started at 9:30, and the invite says it's from 8 in the morning until 11:30. So is it actually 8 in the morning or 9:30?
Michael? Yes. It's 8 in the morning.
Okay.
That makes more sense. Thank you for that.
8 to 11:30, is that?
Scott was probably thinking of the program.
Yeah.
Coffee, breakfast.
Right. We have a very nice breakfast planned. It'll be, it's very well done. The ceremony is very well done.
And-
Sturdy stage this year.
And seats.
So
Yes.
I will not be here at the next meeting. The next time you see me, I will be officially retired. I can make those all-day meetings.
There you go. That's all I have. Open session.
Let's move on to open session. Mr. Arnold.
For the second time in 2 months, the city council has canceled their safety committee. I think I know why. Back in January, there were a number of budget amendments, and one of them was Shot Spotter. That's the program that allows them to know where a shot was fired instantly. It's controversial all over the country, and I was hoping that the public would have an opportunity to speak on it. They canceled the February, and now they've canceled the March for this March 19th. So it looks like it's dead. It's not going to happen. They won't have another meeting until April, and they have to have their budget ready by March the 31st. It's not going all that well at City Council. This is their brand new monthly newsletter. Took me 30 seconds to find a typo. It says that the Plan Commission meets at 10 a.m. No, they meet at 2 p.m. They know that. I pointed it out. Where is it? That wasn't a big deal, but this is. As a matter of policy, they have to advertise in the legal notice section of the Toledo Blade their Plan Commission meeting a month ahead of time. They got the wrong month. These are the cases they're going to hear in May, not in April. Really important stuff. You got 2 salvage yards. Those are always controversial. Special use permit for a charter school on Glendale, a daycare on Secret, but they can't hear these until they've been heard by the Plan Commission. So when I went up to the office to correct this. Like, could you guys correct this? I noticed this is last Thursday, they were decorating the office for St. Patrick's Day, and I wish you could see these. It's extravagant. It's a huge rainbow, and it's got clouds, and it's got balloons, and at the end there's a pot of gold. And it has cutouts of leprechauns, and then they took cutouts of the faces of the city council members and put those over that. So you've got city council members as leprechauns, and they're dancing around this pot of gold. And given that the city is broke, and if people are coming to them for money, and they're saying we don't have any, I just think any kind of depiction of a pot of gold is in poor taste and really inappropriate. And I did say so, and they think I'm a party pooper. So let's see. I knew this headline was coming. You've heard about the guy in Michigan that drove his truck into a synagogue. Okay, this is today's Detroit Free Press. Police received call on the day of attack. His neighbors called in with a welfare check. As the investigation is ongoing, but as near as anybody can determine, he committed this attack at 12:19 p.m. His neighbors called the cops at 12:26 p.m., 7 minutes later, saying, we are concerned about his mental health. Will you go and check on him? So authorities in Michigan are saying, please, if you know somebody's having a mental health crisis, do not hesitate. Tell us as soon as possible. You want to err on the side of caution, but maybe this attack would have been prevented if that welfare check had happened earlier. And I keep reading about this this is a school shooting from a couple of years ago. The father of the school shooting in Appalachia, Georgia, this is one where he killed 4 and injured 7. His father was put on trial and has been convicted. Now, whenever I read these things, I say, which one was that? And I go to my files. I've got a stack. This happened in September of 24. And what do I read? 1 year earlier, the FBI investigated this family. They interviewed the father. They interviewed the son. And they said, no, we don't find any probable cause to proceed with this. Now, maybe the FBI did a thorough job, and then again, maybe they didn't. We don't know, because the prosecutors made it clear right from the start, we want to go after the father. So the father has been convicted on 29 counts. They threw every charge they could think of at him. He'll be sentenced later. He faces a maximum of 180 years in prison. Not to worry, with good behavior, I'm sure he could get that reduced to 175 years in prison. Bad joke. But this is what we're seeing in this country. We've seen it before. You saw it in Oxford, Michigan, where they went after the parents after a school shooting there. And I think that it was just disgraceful the way this was prosecuted. The prosecutors spent $100,000 of the taxpayers' money to hire 2 public relations firms and dig up as much dirt as they could. Even though they were under a gag order, they were out there signing deals with the Washington Post and the Hulu streaming network. They wanted to be movie stars. They wanted to milk this for all it was worth. Sometimes it goes the other way. There was a terrible shooting, 2018, Santa Fe, Texas. In that one, 10 killed and 13 wounded. They charged the parents. The jury said no. The jury got it right, and the jury acquitted the parents. Oh, their lives were still destroyed by what their son did, but they were not convicted. So my prediction, and I hope I'm wrong, anybody can get a gun in this country, so we will continue to see school shootings, and you will continue to see prosecutors and the news media go after the family because they are the easiest target. It's far easier to go after the family than it is after the FBI or the schools or some agency. No. And so remember, we got two courts in this country. We got the court of law and we got the court of public opinion. It's tough to get a conviction in a court of law, but it's not tough to get a conviction in the court of public opinion. And all families that mentally ill are going to suffer for this because when we see these school shootings, every effort's going to be made to go after the family as opposed to the school or government agencies. And that's my opinion. So thank you for listening.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Hunter, and I work at the Thomas and Warner Center as a peer supporter. I'm in charge of the garden program. It's really lovely. I would encourage anybody to come out and see us during the summer. But what's wonderful about our gardening program is we're in the middle of a food desert, which is not wonderful, but it offers the opportunity to work with peers because it's proven fact that gardening helps with mental health. But we also have the opportunity of learning skill sets, working with one another, and providing food, fresh produce during the summer. I mean, prices are going up, it's obvious. So I'm very grateful to have that opportunity. And when it comes to our community gardens, our master gardeners are very intricate with our community gardens, or when you get free trees down at the at the farmer's market, when it gets warmer and things like that. So I would encourage everybody to support the Master Gardening Program because it's on a lifeline right now. Thank you for your time.
If there's no one else wishing to speak in our open session, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.